Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Aloha Pools and Spas Deep Dive Podcast. I'm John Watts, your host. Along with me today is Brad Cook and,
as usual, yes, and we have Aaron Klemme. Aaron.
All right.
Oh, sorry. And Klemme Construction. Klemme Construction.
Correct.
So, Eric, when I was walking around the show yesterday, I saw your booth, and I thought, man, I got to interview whoever is running this thing because the house plans over there look amazing. And I always come in after a house builder or, that the house is already pretty much done. But on occasion, people will buy a pool as the house is being built, and we try to work with people to basically we tell our homeowners, like, as soon as everything's on the back, they might let us in, and we just try to let that go. But so tell me, where you guys, who you are, where you from, what you've been doing, how long you've been doing it, and just tell me about yourself. And
Sure. So my name, obviously, Aaron Klemme. I started the company back in. I've been in business for a long time, but went into a full remodeling company, essentially, when we started back in the early 2000s. And I've been a home remodeler for years, and it's about 2015, 16, got into developmental work. Also do a lot in the real estate industry, a little separate from the construction side of things. So we were able to get a 100-home subdivision development off the ground in Freeburg, Illinois.
Okay.
And at that point in time, we really weren't home builders. We were a remodeling company, and I had a lot of real estate background on the other side. So naturally, you get that done, and now we want to sell lots. Well, the fastest way to sell lots is to put houses on them. So, the transgression of things basically led me from remodeling to, hey, let's get a spec house off the ground. I know how to build. We've done commercial work in the past and other, residential building, but we weren't a home builder per se.
Right.
Well, one turned into 2, turned into 10, turned into a subdivision of homes. And, as things progressed, we're getting asked to build homes in Edwardsville, Illinois, Waterloo, Illinois, Monroe County. So we're based out of the Columbia, Illinois area. Work within about an hour of that, that home base. We've done some homes as far as Lake of the Ozarks. I really don't prefer to. You try to keep things in the wheelhouse closer to home with the amount of work that we've had here. But so that a little bit about the past. And so at this point in time, we try to keep it 10 to 20 houses a year. Obviously we always like growth, to be able to do more. And I think in the years to come we probably will, and do a lot of custom homes. We do some spec homes, things like that as well. So it's a fair mix.
That like I say, looking at your booth, it looks like you guys do some of the nicer looking work around. Middle upper money.
Yeah, I won't shy away from some of the more entry level or first time home builder kind of homes. A lot of those start in that 400,000 area, but then we've also got some where where we really shine working with a client in homes that got one right now we're working on that I think is, by the time we get all the cost runouts done, probably be closer to a $4 million home. So there's a spread there.
I'll say.
I can't say we have a niche in one specific spot there. I think we do pretty good across the board with just home building in general, from the small ones to the big ones. So
do you generally work with the like a subdivision, or if I come to you and I go, listen, my wife and I were building a home, how does that process? Would you be the person I would come to like that?
Well, I would always recommend somebody that's looking to build to probably visit with the builder first. Even if they don't have a lot, they do have a lot either way. It's always kind of good to have an idea of what you're getting into, and I think most good builders can at least direct you in the best practices of where to start and what to do. And I say that, if you're looking for a lot, and I'd never cut our great realtors out, because they sell my homes, they do a great job at what they do. But in the same token, in a lot of cases, I don't necessarily see the value sometimes in bringing a realtor in. If you're going to go direct to a builder and you've got an idea where you're headed, you're adding some extra costs in there that I don't think are necessary all the time. But the builder can kind of direct you. Hey, this by you telling them what you want, what you're looking for. Hey, maybe this is a great subdivision. Look to buy a lot this way. Fill you in on the process of it to where somebody may say, well, I'm unfamiliar with how the loan process works. Well, or they don't have as much money for a down payment. Well, in that particular case, maybe you look for a more planned development where the builder owns the lots. He'll build you the home. There's no money, a very small down payment. And then when it's all said and done, you just close it out at the bank like you're buying a house off the market. There's no construction loans involved. The builder carries that. And then on the other side, you've got your custom market where you may buy a lot in a specific development, something like that. And we try to direct them. So I would say that the first best step would probably be, whether you build with me or another builder, is to at least get a background of what you're looking at if you've never done it before.
What you said, though, rung out to me when you said about looking at a lot. Just say they're with their realtor and they're looking at this lot. To me, what you said makes worlds of sense, because being a pool guy, knowing what is in a backyard, basically what's in a backyard is what's left over of the front and middle.
Sure.
And so if somebody has this kind of idea of they look at a bare piece of land and they want a house on it, and a lot of people just don't know exactly how it all works together. They don't know what kind of footprint will sit on it, and it was set in that lot and all the setbacks of the lot. And
Correct.
I think if they don't talk to you somewhere before they buy, they may end up getting a house that's nothing like what they had planned on, because it's got to fit within the constraints of the lot. I mean, is that where you're going?
I think you probably could have hit it on the head better. And I've got a perfect example of this, because this is a situation I witnessed it. I wasn't part of it, but it's ironic. I constructed a home for myself, being a builder. We do that every couple of years because we trade them out like shoes sometimes.
Does your wife like that?
No, I don't think any of us particularly like it, but
I can think so.
We do it nonetheless sometimes. But that said, there was a lot next door to mine, and it's funny you mentioned that. Gentleman or a couple came in, I suppose, bought that lot. I wasn't really familiar with them. But I noticed this is a brand new development, and there's a realty sign out front to sell the lot. So I have to ask the developers. I said, what happened over here? I said, you guys don't have this lot on your list. Somebody obviously bought it and is reselling it right away. They purchased it 2-3 months ago. Well, they bought the lot, had plans for their house and their pool or what they were going to do in their head.
Right.
And the elevations didn't work out, so they had to resell the lot. So they bought a lot for... I don't recall the exact price, but they bought it for. I know they took a loss on it. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
Because now you're competing with all the other lots in the subdivision that the developer's selling. So it didn't work out in their favor, and it would have been a very simply avoided problem by talking to a builder right ahead. I know
this has
talking
happened
over.
This happened twice. I don't know how long. It typically goes away in just a second.
Yeah.
Pets being adopted. And anything you need.
I should offer to go do the announcements for them.
You would nail it.
We just nail it down real quick, get it done, boom.
You could time it better for sure.
That's for sure. You control that.
Last time there was a terrible pause, and right when we started back, boom, she started talking again. It was like 15 seconds, but it seems like it's over now. So, what's the biggest? I'm sorry, you were going to say something.
I was just gonna finish up on that idea, because I know enough about the customer that calls me and we said, well, tell me, how's your yard? And they'll say, oh, it's flat.
Yeah.
And it's flat,
right?
But it's not level.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I was just going to ask, what's the biggest challenge you face?
From what point?
Well, right.
Which perspective? Of business, building, question mark, economics.
Yes. Home, and with your relationship with your wife. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just playing. I'm joking.
Hey, we're all married here, aren't we?
Yeah, I know.
we all know. No, I guess a way to phrase that is, well, would be, what's the biggest challenge that your customer might face.
Exactly.
Whatever that you've got to walk them through.
Besides people talking over you.
Yeah, the winner. We'll hold on that. We'll hold on that until
Report to the front entrance.
the people win their prize.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Somebody's a winner.
Bruce.
See, that's that happened. That's what we were talking about.
Bruce Boxstorper. You have also won.
This is extra entertainment for the
Bruce Boxstorper
keeps it.
and Lonnie McMahon.
So you do have to advertise.
Congratulations. Report to the front door where you enter, and they will give you your prizes.
So I think we're good, but I think there's two of the biggest challenges I think when it comes to building. It all boils down to one is getting the client exactly what they want, but the two things that are most difficult that I see is right now, wanting to live in a specific area and then trying to find the lot or the place to build for you, because in a lot of places there aren't. The availability of the home sites is sometimes not there. So it may take time till something new is developed, finding a piece of ground. And there's a lot of moving pieces with that between, you having plans, a loan, making sure that's going to fit, putting an offer in on ground. So that in itself is its own challenges. A, where you're going to be able to build. And then number two, which this transitions into essentially is your budget. So being able to realistically set some guidelines up front with the client of, hey, what do you guys expect? What are you looking for? And this is always a tough one, because when you ask somebody, hey, how much do you want to spend on this, or what's your budget? Well, most people are pretty reluctant. Well, I don't want to tell him what I want to spend because he's going to spend every dollar.
Right.
But ultimately, it's not really the case, because we meet so many different people, and the way I build homes, and I think for a lot of builders, no, we're not all the same. We can do projects one of two ways. I can do a fixed price contract, which is where we look at what you have, we set a number to it, and that's that. That's what we're going to build it for. You have a budget on every single item. Or the alternative way to do this, and we do this on a lot of customs, because on new custom plans that have never been built that somebody had drawn, you do run into problems that are unforeseen in, say, a house that I built 20 times that I have a plan set for.
Right.
And so in that case, what we'll do is, we charge a percentage over what all the costs are on the home. I give you an estimate on what I think it's going to be. I set those budgets for you so that you could follow that as the build process goes along. But in turn, you're not paying me any blue sky. So I'm not marking up something more on one thing and not on another, or now you're building with me and you decide, hey, you want to change out to a different flooring, and I know other builders have different cost ways they do things and charge. Right. And so they love it. For them, they're going, oh, we make a 40% markup when they change that floor. Well, I'm not going to, you put your trust in me. I'm not going to start trying to mark up a specific item because they're stuck with me.
Right.
It's the same markup across the board. So the client essentially is in control then of everything they choose, and a lot of times they come out ahead because they're only paying what my actual cost is plus that percentage. And when you're doing a fixed price contract, you gotta add enough to that to make sure you're also not going to lose on my end. But that said, getting them exactly what they want for the price that they're getting them to open up, tell me what that price is, and then realistically being able to design and draw and get them fit into something that fulfills all their needs for that cost. And that's always a difficult thing to do sometimes.
Is there one way or the other that you find that most of your customers end up more happy, and that you would like if you said, if somebody's listening to this and they're trying to make their decision, which way you would direct them?
I think it's
or is it just the customer?
I think it really depends a lot on the client. So I found that people that have built homes in the past, somebody that's already built the home is much more likely to
they know.
They already know what they're getting into, and they're not afraid to embark down the road of a cost plus style situation.
Right.
That could also, and the downside to a cost plus where this can bite you is if we start the process and you're going through and you got your budgets, but you're not watching them closely, it's not like a fixed cost where every time you go over, under, or change something, you get a new update from me and a change order, and it's written down and the new cost. If you're not doing that math in your head and keeping good track of where you're spending that money by changing things in the budget that you didn't watch, you could easily go way over. But for the people that have done it before, they go, listen, I know how to shop. I know what I'm after.
Right.
and they'll control those costs and a lot of times come out much farther ahead than if I gave them a fixed price that I would maybe benefit more from.
Yeah, and that surprise at the end is it shocks people sometimes, and it's not your fault.
Correct.
It's their fault, but
yes.
they don't want to. I hate to say that they might not want to blame themselves.
I'm not saying that it never happens,
Right.
but I think, and there again too, if say it's not your first time building a home, you've owned homes in the past. I mean, when we're all young and we start out, we don't have as much money to play around with in some cases. So having a fixed price is ultimately, there's no other way to do it, because if it went over, you don't have the money to pay the difference. Well, in a lot of cases, when you do the cost plus, you've done it before. If it did go over by 20,000 or 10 or 15 or whatever it is, writing that check sometimes isn't such a big deal for the people that they got what they want. They knew what they were, and they don't care. They go, I got the money back. It's fine. I'm not gonna be caught up at night figuring out how I'm gonna have to pay for this.
You nailed something right there, because I don't know if you can tell it, but I've been down the road a time or two, right? And so my first house I built when I was 29, 30 years old, all right? Mm-hmm. And I was that fixed budget kind of guy. And I took this house plan, and it had this garage. It was 22 feet of garage. Well, I had at that time, it was a Chevrolet extended cab. No, I ended up getting that bigger truck. I couldn't fit it in, but what I had to do, I had to put it all the way to the front. I regretted it. And so the next house I built, only thing I regretted was the payment at the end of it. And I regretted that every month, but I didn't regret going in the house. And everything be the size, the garage I could pull into, walk around and walk between my truck and the freezer. And, and so that if I could have any input on somebody, that if you can do it, and if you can at all squeeze out the extra money for it to pay for it along the way, I don't think you regret that in the end.
No, and I think that's the beauty about it. A lot of times working with a builder, obviously it's always easier to go and you've got a new development where a bunch of houses are built that are for sale. You can walk it, you can see it, and hey, this fits the bill. I'm gonna buy this house. I know exactly what the price is. You're done. You're out. It's closed. Right. Simple. But alternatively, and I think it's an intimidation factor for people, especially first-time buyers going, oh my gosh, I've heard the stories and they're over. And I mean, there's a stigma that goes with that. And I'm sure there's plenty of bad builders out there for as many there are good builders. And this is where, as a client, you do your research. I mean, I'd like to think we're the best, at what we do. And I'm honest with people, and that's kind of our name to fame with what we do. And sometimes maybe too honest to my own demise in some cases.
Sure.
It probably use them. But I found out over the years too is I tell you what, fortunately for us in construction, even since the COVID days, everybody's been fairly busy. So there hasn't been a lack of work in the construction industry. That being the case, we've been able to kind of write our own list of customers. But with that, I've also, after years of doing this, and it's not many. I can't even think of a good example of a specific person or this, but be selective, find the builder that you trust, that you work with, that you've researched. And in the same case, as a builder that's done this for some time, we interview our clients as much as they interview us. I mean, why get into a situation with
good to be in that position?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing with having somebody that's more seasoned, that and you've checked, they've been in business a while, they know what they're doing, sort of thing. You're not necessarily hurting for it. I mean, there's no way that anybody in their right mind wants to turn down good business. But in the same token,
you think that
we want to make, you think it, but I've found out that over years of doing this, it's the biggest purchase of many people's lives to do this. You want it to be a great experience for them. I want it to be a great experience for me. I enjoy doing what I do. And I don't want to complicate that by doing a job for somebody that I don't think we're a good fit for, or vice versa. They're not a good fit for us. It's not in our wheelhouse. So, we ask these questions up, but building a new home, and I'll say this is, it's a piece of cake. Of course, I do it every day. But
yeah, right.
I think a lot of people are intimidated, but I honestly believe that if they found a great builder a lot of times to work with, they would go, man, this was nothing, and I got exactly what I wanted this time. So
I need you to talk to my wife, because we're on our 5th house. I think we've bought like 5 homes, and
sure,
sometime around number 3, I said, it always comes down every 3-4 years. We look at this, and we go, and you suddenly decide that I'm no longer happy with the living room, and I'm no longer happy with this, and I want to change that, and we should just let's move here. Let's do, and so we find another home. Oh, it's beautiful. And we move in, and about 4 years later, it's I don't like this. I don't like that. So I've always said, why don't we come up with our dream home and have it built, right, and just do it. And she's terrified because, just like you said, it's intimidating. And we've heard all the horror stories from our friends and everything. And so I get exactly what you're saying.
And from my seat, anytime my wife looks at a house, she said, I would love that. Well, I could really do something to that. I cringe at the idea of it because I know that everything is not going to be exactly like what I want. So I build. Right. We're going to build. And we're looking at a place we've got a place at the lake, and it's not quite big enough for a forever lake home. Mm-hmm. And so now she's like, that one's for sale. And I'm thinking, I don't even want to look at the living room because I know it's not perfect, or I know it's not like ideal, and I want to build. So I would be your customer, I believe.
Yeah. And I don't think you're at a deficit by doing that. I think a lot of people think, well, it's going to be cheaper if I buy the house, and it's not. I'm not. Like I said, if I'm doing a cost plus house, whether I build it and it's sitting there for sale, and I'm still making the same clip on it or percentage, whatever you want to call it, profit that I would here, it's the same across the board. So,
right,
you're probably to an advantage because it actually costs me more. I think I make less margins on pre-sold or custom homes than I do on a pre-design. So I can set the price on the spec when it's done to make sure I make exactly what I want. My percentage, that we're after, that we make as our normal margin.
Yeah.
But when I'm dealing with somebody, if I'm waiting on selections or changes or things, those things, they slow down the process. It's not a profitable situation.
In that case, we would not be your ideal customer.
So you're actually, everybody
we're
is
horrible.
That's what we're here for. But in essence, that's what I say is, you're in no deficit. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you ask for it? If you're spending the money,
it's a one-time shot,
and you want what you want, you may as well get what you want. Just like that. You want the 30-foot garage, not the 21 that the new Yukon XL or whatever it is doesn't fit in. So you may as well do that and get exactly what. But I think, like you said, everybody's intimidated. But I tell you what, and whether it's myself or in being part of like the Home Builders Association, for so many years, and the president of the board, and right, across that, I've met all the other builders in the area, and I'm. While I am the best, there are a lot of great guys out there, and they're personal friends of mine. I know they do a fantastic job, and I know people that they have built for that love them. So it was an awesome experience, So it's I know you hear the horror stories, but did you do your research?
Right.
Why did this go wrong? I have a lot of questions to that.
But even with a pool, sometimes there's this moment of frustration, and then the sometimes that you'll get this phone call 6 months later, and they say, "Hey, I just want you to know I'm enjoying. I love." It's like making an omelet. You got to break some eggs in order to make.
Sometimes true. No, you're right, and I think in business, being a business owner and being business, you've been over the years. I mean, you do have the occasional one person here and there that I don't know that anybody could ever satisfy. You do your best.
You do,
but maybe
if you're lucky, you only have
right. It's just you just look back and go, man, I don't think I could have done anything more to make this person happy. But that said,
probably not the norm.
You do what you can, but even as pools. It's a great example. I put myself in the same category. Builders, inherently, there's always that stigma in the market, that reputation that some of them have created that make it a bad playground for everybody.
Pool guys are the worst.
And you hear about some pool guys, but you know what? There's plenty of great ones out there.
Yeah.
I mean, what? You didn't do your research, and I preach that over and over to people. And listen, while I love the people that come to me and they put their trust in me and say, "Hey, I love it. It's a 100% match for us. We love you. We've seen your work. We want you to do it. We're not going anywhere else."
Right.
Well, great. No, I appreciate that. But in the same token, I don't ever try to talk them out of it. Honestly, in a lot of cases, I've had this. I think a lot of people have. I've had homes that I built for people. Wonderful. I become friends with them. Everything's great. They love the house. They move into it. They have a party one night. People come over, and Bob from down the road, whose brother-in-law was a builder, who's a little sour. He didn't get the buildings, and they're picking it apart.
Right.
What did he charge you for this? Oh God, we could have done this for $100,000 less,
Yeah,
which is not practical. It wasn't getting done. But now all of a sudden, this person that loved everything, loved me, loves their home, everything was perfect for them. Now they got a sour taste, thinking,
Right.
"Oh, well, this could have been $100,000 less." When in fact that's not the reality.
Yeah.
But had they gone and went to 2 other builders and found out that I, in fact, was cheaper than the guy down there, that they would.
That's right.
They would have said, "Okay, yeah,
There's-
right.
there's-
Everybody's going to get it less, right?" Yeah.
Situations you're just not going to win.
But that's why.
all good.
But that's why we say research. Go out there. I tell you what. If I'm not a fit for you, fine. But on the same token, I found that more times than not, I end up. I win those clients. You follow up. You call back. You give them what they want. You're going to work for them. And I think in a lot of times I do a better job than the other guys out there. I'm not always can't say I'm the best over but I think we do a great quality job, and that's what
Well, it's looking at your booth, I would have to say that it looks, just going back to that, it looks not a lot of nice house plans and all that. Let me ask just one last question here.
Sure.
And I'll let you close with anything you'd like to say, but what is the most exciting thing what's trending now, or what would you recommend for people look at when they're looking at just building a new house? Like what are you excited about?
I don't know how. I mean, I get excited I love making the people happy. I mean, my most exciting is when the best feeling is when they come back at the very end of it all saying, "Man, we love everything. We love it. The whole experience was great." I mean, that's the ultimate goal. So
it is.
That's really what excites me. But from the standpoint of trending things in home design, boy, that's a loaded, tough one. And I say that because it changes so often.
Well, I bet.
I mean, it is a constant. You try to keep up with it. There are so many little trends, but then there's a lot of them too. I tell people, it's like, I've seen this come and go.
Yeah.
Brushed gold faucets. Yeah, it's hot. It was hot in the 80s too.
Right.
Exactly.
It's coming back. So I don't know. These things are always changing. It's really difficult to put a finger on one particular thing.
Anytime my wife and I are talking, she says, "Oh, I think I'd like that," and the litmus test for me is, can you tell what era it was built in? And so that to me,
that's a great way to put it.
I because I don't want to be able to. And so there's this. I've got this French country house plan, and somebody might say, "Yeah, well, that was built in the '90s," but I think it's timeless.
Right.
And that's what I go for, is just anything that is timeless. And unfortunately, if there's a really neat look that was invented, that somebody came up with, and it's not necessarily timeless, you can't just go back into the dark ages. And there's a balance of timeless designs, and
It is so. You should be a home builder. I found a sales guy. I think it's fun. I had this same conversation the other day, and I used the exact same words about timeless. They were looking at some of the facade work on the outside of the house, and there's a particular developer that we built some lots in their subdivisions, and they have some pretty tight restrictions on what can and can't be built. But unfortunately, because of those restrictions, these houses inherently start looking the same.
Absolutely.
And you can drive through it, and they're an older group of guys that did the development, generationally speaking.
Right.
And because of that, I think what they lean to and the way they like the houses looking appeals to their 1980s taste. Well, it time dates everything in there. And that's a big thing I tell people. It's like, are you going to love it in 15 years? Or are you going to love it in 20 years? Try to pick stuff that you don't necessarily have to change out to to keep your house from looking like it is now out of the day.
Right.
If you do move or whatever, why not design something that you like? Go down a whole other path with designers here to fit that bill.
Right. Yeah, and I was just going to say I know this street in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, that is not a planned development. So the houses are just whatever the houses are, and that also to some people when they drive down through there, it is so across the board that there's no rails or there's no guidelines on that. And
some of those are really
like
neat.
that.
I love that. And there's places in Union City I always like every time I go through and I find that one street that all the historical homes are on, and you see the big one here, and then a more modern home, and then one over here. I just think it's neat.
You like that?
That's the problem with me though, working with a builder, is because I know that if my wife and I were to design something, I'd never be able to resell it because it would be such weird, eccentric. Because everybody's always like
somebody out there.
I know, but
There's one in every crowd.
There's one of those guys.
He's this guy.
everybody's always talking about how you want to do beige in here, and you want before you can sell it, you want to be like, and it's everything is so boring. Yeah. And my wife is she likes a very bohemian, look on everything, and I'm like we're both
popular style now.
Yeah,
there'll be all kinds of colors in our house.
Bright colors, and I know that you could just fix and paint over things, but some of the floor plans and stuff, and just the way that you do things, I like.
I think you'd be surprised at how many people like a lot of that stuff. And I don't think you see a lot of it,
right?
Because people try to design homes sometimes to be very drab,
right?
Because they're afraid. They'll be they'll design their forever home. They don't plan on selling it.
Exactly.
But then, let's do just an off-white wall. Let's not,
right.
Somebody else. Well, who are you selling it to?
Life's too short for that.
But you in a spec house.
Yeah.
Right. Well, now I will say this: in most spec houses, as a builder that's looking, what will appeal to 99.9% of the people? You're trying to blank canvas. So there's not as much. I won't say character. That's not a good way to put it. We try to do that in the plans. We still try to, stay up with some trends on cabinetry and things like that. But you're probably not going to get an eclectic shade on the wall.
No, but for the people, but I think if you have that blank canvas, if you without the blank canvas and all the color, the bohemian look may not be their bohemian look, and it may block. Well, when you've got that color that they know that they can do something with, I think that's a safe way to go on a spec house.
And it's weird too. I say that in one sense, which I think when you appeal to the masses, that's ultimately the goal. But we've also had homes we've done where, I don't know, call it 6 years ago, the farmhouse look is a real popular thing with some wood and the stone and the brick on the front and everything kind of mixed up to give it that farmhouse craftsman look, maybe. And if it's as soon as I got them out, they were gone. I couldn't even get it finished. It's a very hot design at the time. Well, like right now, we see a lot of the more modern designs with flat face cabinetry and things like that. And you'll put those in, and they'll sell so fast. And every now and then you get it wrong. So I think that's what a lot of builders that are doing, production-based style homes or spec or inventory homes. You're careful about what you do there, but there again, some of these styles are really cool, and they do sell, and so
I like a lot of industrial stuff. I like stuff that looks, like a raw brick wall, a panic room that's built deep into the earth where no one can hear you scream, things like that.
Sure. No, and I love the industrial look. If you saw my own house, you'd probably go, this is more my design. Like that look. Now, I'm certain my mother, who probably has a very much more traditional look, walks in there and goes, Jesus, there's nothing warm about this, son. I don't know what you were thinking. You need about 700 more things on shelves and hanging on the walls. Just a difference in style. But I think and demographically, age does affect a lot of
Oh,
that,
absolutely.
The older generation has a different style they typically like than the younger.
And they all have that big glass hutch with all the knickknacks in it that we're all going to inherit and have to figure out who we're going to.
That's why we're so simple now.
Yep.
Like, less is more. Less
Yes,
is more.
yes.
I'm fast approaching that glass hutch thing. So what? Hey, Aaron, I lied to you, man. I said 10 or 15.
I knew.
Oh,
As soon as it started 5 minutes in, I was a bust on time.
Yeah. That's the way good conversations are.
True.
Website, phone number, all the ways that someone can contact you.
Definitely. So again, Klemme Construction. We build all around the St. Clair, Madison, Monroe area here in Midwest Illinois. We can be contacted by phone at 618-476-1126, by email at info at Klemmeco, KLEMMECO.com, and also our website at klemmeco.com. You can go on there, check out our home plans, designs that we have up on there. I didn't mention one of the things we do in-house plan design as well. So
Nice.
I do that.
Why would you do in the house?
I do right there.
Sorry,
I noticed.
terrible. What a childish joke.
Y'all both just went there.
We have
He knew when he saw it.
architects, drafters we send you out to. If you want to go that route, we can do it in-house, save you the money. One of our big things, the show here, anybody that comes in, we'll right now we're running a deal where if you design with us, we'll design the home for your custom home in-house, not charge anything on the plan design or any of that. So, we can draw those in. We run our own CAD programs, things like
Nice.
that. I don't know of any other builders in the area that do. So that's a little perk, and it allows us to get the homes going quicker and everything. So, reach out to us. Check out our website at klemmeco.com. Give me a call. Even I'm happy. I answer the phone. Probably the main guy in the office half the time answering the phone, even though I probably shouldn't get more done. But you can reach me on my cell at 618-410-1465. So I'm happy to give that out for the people that are interested to talk. And
He does that all the time.
Sounds like my kind of guy right there.
You're going to get me either way if you ask for me, so I may as well make it easier for you. You don't have to select one or two or three. You just call me right on my cell. And
Good for you. That's why you're successful, and that's why you're in demand. Aaron,
And sometimes pulling my hair out.
exactly, of course.
Well, we sure appreciate you coming on today. This has been another episode of the Aloha Pools and Spas Deep Dive Podcast. Dive safely.
Dive safely.
Thank you guys for having me.